That was a lot scarier a second ago. The biggest elephant in the room with this film is obviously who was going to be directing it. This was going to be an Edgar Wright film. That would have been awesome. Can you imagine how much slicker this film would have been if he really had the control that he needed? This is a frustrating element of, like, this could have gone full genre, which it kind of does, and that's why I give it a lot of credit. Could have gone full genre heist movie. It could have been a sort of parody, sort of like lampooning of heist movies, like Hot Fuzz with police movies, or Shaun of the Dead is with zombie movies. Like, can you imagine if this film was as beloved as those films? That being said, the film that we got is still a really enjoyable little heist movie with some really funny comedy. Again, Paul Rudd absolutely carries this. Not on his own though. Michael Pena as Luis, hilarious. Obviously this film follows Scott Lang, not Hank Pym, as the protagonist, which is probably a good call given Hank Pym's history in the comics. No one was really going to buy him as a likeable action hero at this point, were they? And there's a few little, like, nitpicks that drag this movie down. One, you can kind of tell there was two directors on board, just like there's a slight change in style. Not quite as tight as an Edgar Wright movie, but you can still see his fingerprints all over it. Number two, the villain. Cross, Yellow Jacket, whatever you want to call him, is really dull. Again, they could have had more fun with the villain. Imagine if they'd gone for Egghead. I mean, he's already bald, just make him Egghead. Would have been far more interesting, make him more campy, make him more Bond villain-esque, I don't know. You could have had a lot more fun with him. It's another forgettable MCU villain, and it's another one of those, the hero and the villain have the same tech type fights. But it is more creative, like the whole Thomas the Tank Engine thing. The major nitpick I have with this is it pays lip service to the idea that you are not losing mass when you shrink. You increase your density. That's how it justifies how a punch would hurt even when it's that small. But it's very inconsistent with this logic, the main offender being the Keyring tank that is actually a real tank, which logically, by the movie's own rules, should be far heavier than a real tank. You shouldn't be able to carry it around. And this just gets worse and worse in the sequel. Either stick to that rule or don't have that rule. You can't do, like, it's not a thing where you can have it both ways. I would have preferred if they just cut that line about trying to explain the powers and just go, it's a shrink ray. Like, it's already comic booky enough, alright? We don't need mumbo-jumbo science to explain it. At the end of the day, this is just a fun film. The nitpicks really don't matter. It's fun. It's a fun heist movie. I went to see it with my dad back in about 2015, and I have very fond memories of it just being a really fun watch and then going to a steakhouse afterwards. So I'm never disappointed when I go back and revisit this film, and there's always room for more Paul Rudd in the MCU. Always.